Hey friends, it's Dimitri with Rubashka Streetwear. So I know I haven't made a video for the how to start a clothing brand series in a while. I've just had a lot to deal with, some health things, I've been very busy. But anyways, so here's episode 3, naming your brand. Um, this one is one of the more difficult things to do when you're starting your brand, but honestly, it's one of the most fun things as well. So today we're going to talk about the different types of brand names, the criteria for them, and how to find a brand name. So I kind of boiled it down into two things. There's two types of brand names. There's eponymous, and then there's just reference. And I'll explain what that means. So eponymous means it's named after you. So named after you. This one is probably not the way that you want to name your brand if you're more introverted and you don't want to be in the spotlight. So this is spotlight, extroverts. This is something that you want maybe. The reason why is because your brand is referencing your name, so you're the face of the brand. So either you or your family or the family name, whatever, is the face of the brand. And some examples of this include Gucci. This is a very obviously famous one, the Gucci family. There's Dolce & Gabbana, DG. There's Levi's. That's obviously more the lower end. It's not a designer brand. I think Levi's is like the last name. A lot of these can be last names, obviously, but also you can do your first and last name. So a big one right now is Heron Preston. That's one of my favorite streetwear brand designers, and this one's obviously high end, but he's the main designer. He's the face of the brand. His name is on a lot of basically most of the products. So definitely, if you want to name your brand after yourself or your family or some obscure family name or middle name, something like that, then definitely think about that. Think about who you are as a person. Do you want the spotlight? Do you want to be the face of the brand? If not, you can go down the easy way that most brand names or brands do, and that's reference. I didn't know what to call this. There's obviously the fancy name eponymous for being named after your name, but then reference, that just means referring to. So what is your brand name referring to? A lot of things it could refer to would be like animals, places, objects, feelings, etc. So that can just keep going down the list. A popular brand that's named after an animal would be Arc'teryx. I don't know if I said that right, but that's a prehistoric dinosaur type bird creature back then. And the Arc'teryx brand is like, they make really nice rain jackets, stuff like that, very high end, very cool. The brand name is very unique. Places, a popular one could be the North Face, TNF. I don't know if they use that acronym, but that's a really cool one because the North Face is like a mountain that mountain climbers climb, and they make obviously outdoor jackets. Objects, obviously my brand name Rubashka is named after an object, and that object is a like button-up shirt, so I'm gonna write my name there. Feelings, this one can be, it's probably going to be hard for you to do, but you can do it. And I'm sure, I'll give a funny example. I'm sure if you go online and you type in sad clothing or something like that, you're going to find the hundreds of sad clothings, or a funny, corny one be like rage apparel, something like that. So you can definitely do that. So those are the two main ways that you can. A common one too would be like a foreign word, and that's exactly what I did with Rubashka, because that's a Slavic, Russian word. So that's something that you can do. Those are the main two types of names for clothing, or for your brand name. So the criteria. This one, you kind of have to think about it. So in my opinion, you want something that is short and concise. The reason why you want it to be short and concise is because it will be more memorable. Easy to say. Rubashka is not the easiest to say because obviously not everyone knows Russian. They don't know how to roll their R's. They can't say it. Now, this does not mean that if you have a longer brand name, it doesn't mean that your brand name isn't going to stick and that's not going to be popular. And I'll give you a funny example of this, a really funny example. So there's a brand name called CPFM. That stands for Cactus Plant Flea Market. That's a streetwear brand name. And when I first heard that, I was like, what the heck does that mean? That sounds so funny. I thought it was awesome. So that's a very long name, but it is memorable. It's not short. It is easy to say, but it is kind of long, so I don't know if that would be easy. But definitely, if your brand name is longer, you can do that, but just be aware that you might run into some issues. So I'm gonna spell that out. Cactus Plant Flea Market. Look how long that is compared to Levi's. So if you wanna, and the reason why it's important to think about that is because that's gonna influence your designs and your clothing. So if you wanna put this whole thing on a t-shirt, that's gonna take up quite a bit of the t-shirt. So your designs might be influenced that. The reason I say that as well is because Levi's, they do their classic, I don't know, their logo, something like that. And they write Levi's and they put that like on a t-shirt. It's like Levi's. It's kind of cool, you know. They don't have to write all this stuff. Although, actually, their name is even longer. It's like Levi Strauss Company or something like that. So that is actually another criteria for your brand name. Your brand name can be an acronym, and it could have modifying words. So a popular acronym, I've seen this in this used to be a popular streetwear brand in the 90s. It was FUBU. So FUBU stands for us, by us. And I really like that name because it's short and concise. It's, that's right, catchy. If your brand name is catchy, that's a good thing because, you know, more people are going to say it like FUBU. That's so just like awesome. I like that name. Modifying words. What do I mean by that? Modifying words can be like streetwear, apparel, clothing, outerwear. So these are words that you can latch on to your brand name. So what I do is I write Rubashka streetwear. These are words that you can add on, and this can also influence the design and aesthetic of your brand and brand name. The reason why I write Rubashka streetwear sometimes I just do that and sometimes I write streetwear, is because if you don't know the brand and this is the first time you're seeing it, you might be really confused, like what the heck is Rubashka? If you're a Russian speaker and you see it, you're like, why the heck would you name your brand just shirt? Because that's literally what it means, shirt. So when you add a modifier to it, it can help clarify the brand, and it could be a design that you use. For instance, I'll show you one. So in my sticker right here, I have the brand name. It's in Cyrillic, and that's my logo is in Cyrillic. But then I have a Rubashka streetwear. The reason why I have that is because if you're a Russian speaker and you're like specifically in the United States, you're like, what the heck? What does that mean? Rubashka, it's just shirt. Why would you name your brand shirt? And then you have the modifier and like, oh, okay, I understand it. So it could be a clarifier. The reason why that's important again is even if your brand is English or for English speaking audiences, they might be confused. They're like, let's just funny like rock, like what the heck? Why is their hat say rock? Or like what the heck is rock? What does that mean? They're like, oh, rock apparel. So they now understand that it's a clothing brand. It's not like a construction company or something like rock. So another thing with criteria, this is kind of fun. I'm going to go into depth about it, is play. This is so important, and especially if you're doing a streetwear brand, you want it to have play. Does your brand name have play? What do I mean by play? So a good example of this is the acronym. So Cactus Plant Flea Market. That has a lot of play because they can use the entire name on a piece of clothing, or they can use the acronym. I'll give you an example of this. 1 second. I'm going to grab a pair of socks right here. So here's a pair of socks that I made. I saw they made a pair of socks and they were like, how are we going to fit our entire name on a pair of socks? That's kind of difficult to do if it's woven. So what they did is they did CPFM, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like they fit their whole brand name on a pair of socks. That's how it influences design. That name has a lot of play with it. Here's another example. If it's foreign. So if it's foreign, you can play around with it in two ways. So the way I do this, I'm gonna write it here, is so there's Rubashka in English, and then there's Rubashka in Cyrillic, in Russian. So this is how it's spelled in Cyrillic. So when it's in English, this is like the brand name, but it's referencing Heineken, like the beer brand. I thought it was clever. I was like, oh, it's roughly the same amount of letters, so visually it looks like the logo, and it has the red star, and that's referencing, Soviet style and the Cold War era. And Heineken, they use that red star in their brand. I was like, oh, that's going to be so fun to play around with. So that's what I did. I used my brand name and played around with it. I made this design. I also made this into t-shirts, and they all sold out, and it was a popular design. And then with the Cyrillic one, there's a ton of things. It's like a ton of things you could do with that. I don't think I have any examples with me at the moment, really good visual examples, but basically you can play around with that, and that's something that you can do. This is like so huge. If you're doing a streetwear brand, think of a name that your name is going to go under clothing. So make sure that it makes sense and that, it will transfer over into clothing. That's definitely a criteria they want. It transfers over well. All right, so now we're going to talk about how to find. This is probably something that is obviously going to be very important for you guys. How do I find it? So how did I find, 1 second, actually, I just thought of something very important before we go on to that. So there is another criteria or thing. There's levels. None of these videos are edited, barely edited. So my brain is scattered. There's levels of meaning, and I don't practice these videos, so that's why that happens. Levels of meaning. What does that mean? So with Rubashka, there's actually, and I'll explain what my brand name means if you don't know. Rubashka is a contemporary word for a button-up shirt in Russian. So it's just a shirt. That is the first surface level meaning. The next meaning for that is it's a peasant's shirt. So before Rubashka was the contemporary word for a shirt. It was referencing a garment that a peasant would wear, and it looked a little bit different back then, like a really classic traditional rubashka from the 17th, 18th, 19th century. It looked different. It was a peasant shirt. That's the second level of meaning. And then the third level is it means, the root words of it mean poor clothes. And I thought that was super cool when I found that out, because I come from a Russian household. We were not wealthy by any means back then. I grew up super poor. Like, I was born Russian and my family was very poor. So it definitely has like some kind of personal meaning to me. And the other cool thing is that it's clothing for like the, common person. What I mean by that is I sell stuff in the range of like $3 to getting close to like $70. So it's stuff that like most people can afford. I'm not interested in selling designer clothing for like $500 t-shirts. It's the poor clothes. It's clothes for the common person. They're good quality, but they're not they're not like designer quality or anything like that. So this is something that your brand name can have. It can have multiple layers of meaning, and it's really fun, and you could do fun things with it. So for instance, peasant shirt, that's actually in my Facebook URL on my Facebook page. When I first started the brand, I kind of latched onto that. I was like, I want to do something with it. So that's something that I have done. However, I have not played around with these two meanings as much as I probably should, and probably in the future I definitely should do that. I should kind of incorporate more into the brand. This is kind of a failure of mine. I should have used these two things to strengthen my brand and make it more cohesive. I can do that going into the future, but when you begin, definitely play around with stuff like that. Play around with the deep levels of meaning. So, sorry about that. We're going to go on to how did I find my brand name? I found it in a dictionary of obscure terms. Dictionary. So I went online and I literally typed in, I was like, obscure words, because I was like, I have to find a brand name and it has to be fun and it has to make sense. And I found the word Rubashka and I was like, what? That's weird, because these were all English words. I was like, why was that in there? That's like a common word that we use in a Russian household, for a shirt. And then I found out that it has been used in some English-speaking audiences for settings and whatnot, but I found out these two meanings right here. And that's why I went with that brand name, because this meant a lot to me and I thought it was super cool. If it was just a surface level shirt, I probably wouldn't have done that. Kind of funny related to this, because it's shirt. Some people it's funny, I've had two reactions to this. Some people thought it was very funny and clever, and some people just don't get it and they think it's dumb. I think the reason why some people think it's dumb is because they don't see these two things. They don't see the depth in it. And honestly, from my personality, and I just like stuff to be humorous and kind of trolling. It is kind of trolling. What's it called? Inspiration for the brand name was from a brand called Vetements. I think that's how you pronounce it in French. I'm sure a lot of people say Vitamins, but this is a high-end designer brand that's very expensive. But this literally means clothes or clothing in French. But they cater to a worldwide audience. So if a French person saw that, they would be, what the heck? Why would you name your brand clothing? That's so stupid. But a lot of people see past that and they're like, oh, this is a funny brand. They kind of they troll modern culture and stuff like that. So that's one way that you can find a brand name, through an obscure dictionary online. Another way that you can find a brand name is to use a brand name generator. This is fun. So what you do is you can go on Google. There's tons of these. You can type in words related to your brand, letters, just letters that you like, and it'll generate something fun. So I bet you that if you typed in the letters FUBU to that it would generate FUBU. And that, honestly, like, that sounds cool. It's catchy. It rolls off the tongue. It's short. It has lots of play because you can use just the acronym, the full name on clothing. Very solid name. So that's something that you can do. There's tons of those. Another thing that you want to do is you can use defunct or not big names. This can be a little controversial, but I'll explain. So there's thousands, tens of thousands of brands that have used kind of common, maybe corny brand names, like my corny example, like Rage Apparel. I'm sure there's hundreds of Rage something clothing, but you know, there's lots of brands that never caught on, never got off, and you know, they never lifted off to become something big. So like, you can go on their Instagram page or their social media and you look at it and it's like, oh, their last post was 5 years ago. You go on their website not found. So they don't exist anymore. You can take that name, that concept, make it your own, and then if it's not trademarked, that's something, look up trademark. I will explain that a little bit more. If it's not trademarked, then you can definitely do that and make it into a real thing. And then there might be very old brands that, like I said, they don't exist anymore. You can definitely take their name or modify it or do something with it and make it different, make it your own. Like, let's just say there was a defunct like sportswear brand from the 50s and it's not trademark. You can totally take it, but you make it, instead of like sportswear, you make it into gym clothing or into women's clothing or into streetwear. It's kind of like different from the original. And then, but you do want to look up the trademark. The reason why you want to look that up is because you can run into legal issues, and you want to eventually, at some point in your brand, you want to protect your brand name. You want to protect your brand. I've done that with my logo. The logo is protected, the way it's styled and everything, but the brand name is not really. The reason why is because I chose, like, I don't think this is like a protected trademark. I think the logo is, but not the name, because this is a common name. You can't trademark a common name. I can't trademark the name shirt, right? But you can trademark the logo and the stylization of it. So that was honestly like a tricky process, but I'll make a whole video about that later on. I don't think it's the most critical thing for you to do when you start a brand. You don't need to spend hundreds of dollars getting into that right now. But you can make a brand name for free. It does take some work, but it'll be fun. Another one that's related to mine would be to how to find a brand name was just foreign words. And we already mentioned that with Vetements and my name. So foreign words, look up a dictionary for that. And also, honestly, just go on Google and type in popular streetwear brands, popular clothing brands. Just type it in and just look at them, and you'll get ideas. It's really fun. Anyways, I hope you guys got value out of this video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below or any criticisms, and I will catch you guys later. I hope you guys have a great year, and stay tuned for more. Thanks, guys.